There you go. Come over there. That's easier to get in there.
Don't fiddle with it, it'll fall apart.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. For those of you that don't know, I'm not the mayor. Mayor's on vacation this week, Chris Holley, and as you can probably hear, I'm struggling with a cold. So if I sneeze or something, you'll understand why. Guess I'll attempt to kind of give you, as I usually do, a rundown of kind of what we're dealing with more from an administrative standpoint. The mayor gets into things, kind of outside the building. As the mayor, we have our agreement. I'm inside and he's outside. So when it's my turn, I tend to focus on what we're working on inside, which is a lot. I think the last time I did this, rattled off all the different transitions going on and trying to build a team. And we're getting close. We're getting close. We have a couple of new team members that are starting today in our planning department. So we're calling him Mike Z, because I can't pronounce his last name. I assume he's up in orientation with HR this morning. He's our complete streets planner. As we said, I think he comes from District 5 at DOT, and we're real excited to have him on board. We've got a lot of work for him to do, so we're excited on that. We also have Cynthia Cannon joining us, also in planning, and she comes from Santa Rosa County and used to work for us a while back, so I think we're all excited to have her back on the team. And that'll kind of fill out the planning staff, so we'll be fully staffed there, and really looking forward to that. We spent a couple of days working with council on our budget last week. Thank you for putting good meetings together. For the most part, I thought we stayed on track. As usual, when it gets down to the end, then it's, individual projects for districts and all that kind of stuff. So public hearings are set for September 11th and September 18th at 5:30. That'll be the next time we get together on our budget. But the budget has some real important things for us as a staff. So, it has a new pay plan in it, and the pay plan creates an executive level staffing configuration. I teased Rick over the weekend. I told him, when I talk to you, have to come, and he's sending me a smiling face, but he's not here. So I'm going to pick his favorite subject, which is, the 80 some odd contracts that we had when we got here with employees at all different levels. The old mayor's was his way of doing things. He just handed those contracts out. So if approved in the budget and implemented on October 1, this class, the contracts would go away. Now there's still language in the HR manual that provides, if you ask, those management positions are still at will. Everybody understands what at will means. But in the manual it outlines if someone was asked to go for no cause. If someone does something wrong, a whole different story. But if the mayor still, he's the mayor, and the charter provides these folks are at will. So if they leave, there's a range of severance based on the more exposed you are to some political realities, the benefits are a little higher, as you move down in the organizational structure. This is not for just the average non-union employee, but it does provide, if the mayor decides to and someone's asked to leave, some severance. I don't want to get in all the weeds on that, but it's important that we do that. I know in the past we've talked about the HR manual and an appeal process for employees, and we're re-implementing that. And it's pretty similar. If you were familiar with the old manual, there's a panel. Employees, I think, get to pick one. The mayor picks one. I think we use one of our labor attorneys, but there will be a panel to hear grievances and appeals as it moves up in our organization. So a good pay plan that's competitive, a good HR manual that's fair, that deals with the contract issue that we're dealing with. Let me pause there and see if that's of interest to anyone. Budgets, pay plans, HR manuals, new staffing. Still have a couple positions we're filling. We have the HR director that we just can't find. at this point, but Ron Powell's been willing to stick with us as long as it takes. He was at a conference last week and did some recruiting for us, so anxious to see if we get some more interest in that position. I think Dan starts interviewing for his deputy airport director next week, so anxious to fill that. There was a question, yeah.
Just on the contracts, I thought I heard you say that all of the existing senior staff level contracts that have been negotiated with Mayor Hayward are all going to terminate October 1st if the new budget is approved, and the new pay plan with the new severance package and the HR manual, that's all designed to go in its place.
Yep.
So is the HR manual rewrite complete and it's gonna be put in?
Well, an HR manual is a living document. It's never really 100% done. But we're as close as we can get, and I think it's important that we put it back in place for the employees to feel as we move forward, and word spreads that we're moving in this direction, that they have a chance. So I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks that's something the mayor can do, and I hope in the next couple of weeks we implement that. But the pay plan is tied to the budget, so that won't happen until October 1. But the performance management system that we've talked about is in there. The severance that I've just mentioned is in there. A number of the things that we've been dealing with over the last 8 months are addressed in that manual.
Have you gotten agreement from the unions also on the elements that they're needing to sign off on, especially the pay?
We're making progress. We've had discussions with all three, ASME, fire, and police. I think they've been productive conversations. We're hopeful, but ink's not dry. There's no signatures on it yet. Talk about the whole, mentions complete streets and Mike Z. So the whole skate process is now ramping up as a staff effort. We're already getting questions about hashtag project and Bruce Beach and the marina and all these things about how we're going to do it. And to be honest, we don't know yet. CRA just moved back under the mayor with council approving the interlocal. Helen has been on vacation. She gets back this week, I believe. Kareth, who's in the back of the room, has only got a few weeks under his belt. So I think he and I have some time to get with Helen this week and kind of map out a strategy. We're also out on engineering contracts under Derek's leadership, and there's a committee that's been established. They'll review those proposals. So a lot of the work that comes from SCAPE could be handled through the companies that we pick. So we're kind of, everything's tracking, but we can't, people are already calling, well, who's going to handle this and who's going to do that? And we just don't know yet. And of course, Mike Z needs to get on his feet and figure out whether everything Helen's doing, it's all got to be put in a plan. And of course, Helen also has an update of her overall plan in her budget. And do we wait for a complete update on the CRA plan before we go forward with these projects, or do we, do them simultaneously or not? Council's approved the refinancing. I think it closed last week, so we have some new money on the table. You've heard the number, 17 million plus or minus. How much we invest in each project is still up in the air, but it's all exciting. We've got new people on board. Helen's on the team, new money to spend, engineers that we can hire to help us with all of it. It's all kind of coming together. So we're excited, very excited about it. I couldn't talk much at the budget workshop last week, but I did mention at the end that Derek and Mr. Barker are working. Derek did a presentation on the stormwater plan. Derek, what was the total number? 60 million or something?
Yes, sir.
Plus or minus?
58.
Obviously, that's a lot of money, and we don't have that kind of money, so we're working on how we can finance as much as we can do. If you remember Derek's presentation, you kind of have to start downstream and fix the problems and work your way upstream. And so we're having some internal conversation about what the right projects would be. Obviously, Main Street, with all that we're doing this way, and I go home that way, and when there's 2 feet of water in the road, it's kind of hard to get through. And so that seems to be a project, again, given everything down this way, that would be of interest. And I won't, I'm not going to pick projects right now, but I think we'll come back to to the mayor and council with some recommendations on using the stormwater fee that we currently collect and how we might be able to finance some of these projects and get some of them kicked in. Yep.
The prospect of spending this money downtown for the, Bruce Beach and the hashtag and all that, does that put more of a priority on the Main Street flooding issue as opposed to, say, Langley, because you're already building stuff, you don't want to have to unbuild and rebuild in those areas?
Well, there's different, what Derek calls drainage basins, so I think we're not gonna, I think we're gonna try to divide it up. I've heard Langley mentioned as one of the potentials, maybe that one in Maine, but it gets a little complicated the way it's structured, and when you collect it, having to spend it in draining basins if you collect it citywide, so we're having to work through that evaluation to figure out which projects and how we might finance it.
I don't think the,
Go ahead.
I don't think the downtown projects, the hashtag and the Bruce Beach would really be dependent. Is that your question?
Yeah, does the Main Street stuff need to happen
Not
before
really.
any of the other stuff
No,
happens?
the Bruce Beach project would not be impacted by the Main Street drainage project. They're pretty independent.
Another new exciting venture is Lawrence Powell's here in the room, and the whole neighborhoods outreach program for us is exciting. I'm going to confess that I'm not sure exactly what a neighborhoods program is yet. So there's an educational process for both Lawrence and I. City used to have one. Helen Gibson was part of it. So we're going to rely on her to train Lawrence and I a little more. And then I've asked Lawrence to do research and go visit a town that has a great one, and we want the best one that we can get. And so excited to have Lawrence on board and the outreach that he provides and kind of build, a neighborhood program back into the city. It's exciting stuff. So looking forward to working with him on that. I've got a long list of things that we work on with the county. I saw a draft of the agenda that Don put out. We meet later today, I think, go over the agenda for the meeting on the 8th. And there's a discussion about a city-county meeting. I don't know. That hasn't happened since I've been here, and I don't know how often they've happened. We have our monthly meetings with the chairman of the board and the manager and the mayor and I. But if we have a broader one, I think the mayor's mentioned several times, there's a lot that we're working on with the county. We have a census coming up. It's going to be important to work together on making sure that we get proper counts in the community on the census. Homelessness is always on the list of things that we talk about with the county. West Cervantes that we're working on. And I think Casey put a note on here that the next West Cervantes public workshop is Tuesday, August 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Fricker Community Center, 900 North F Street, Pensacola. That's a lot of detail, but that's the next one. I'm gonna try to reach out to Miss Kelly and schedule some staff. If we're gonna have the mayor and the chairman in the room, we need to be prepared for that conversation. And certainly if we're gonna have the council and the commission in the room, there should be some good staff work that goes in and making sure those meetings are productive and comes out with some good decisions. So I've not sat down with Janice, and just talked in generalities. Wanted to give her some time to get her feet under her over there at the county. We also, are working on a health clinic for our employees. They've had one, we've not. And I think the plan is to try to get us involved so that we have access to that clinic for our employees. So that's also on the list of things to do. So that's what I've got on my note, but I'll answer any questions you've got. Mayor will be back next Monday. So, yes, sir.
And insofar as the skate project goes, are you taking what skate presented at face value, or are you picking pieces of those two plans?
Well, I'm going to say in broad terms, and this is just from my perspective, and we haven't gotten our complete street person up to speed or anything. The Cedar Street concept is the one that I think we should kind of focus on first. I mean, Bruce Beach, we kind of know what we got. I think in general, parking improvements and landscaping improvements and public access and all that's a good thing. I think there's more conversation that's needed about the structure or the concept behind the learning center, I guess is what it's called. And so I think that may take more work, but, you know, Cedar is, I mean, the concept as it is what we're going to try to run with. Now, you know, whether the street is two-way traffic or single lane and all that, you know, just reaching out to the property owners along that street and educating people who may not have paid attention to what's been discussed up to this point. I think Keith, you went to a homeowners meeting or something last week?
Yeah, Gareth and I met with the Port Royal Board.
How did that go?
Right.
Okay.
Went well. We have a follow-up meeting scheduled with them. We're just waiting for the complete streets. Mr. Z, get with him and Helen to get back so we can just talk about a few things before we have our follow-up meeting with Port Royal.
You know, there's a lot of, like, as you get down towards the port, that there's questions that we have about how it's all going to work out. I don't think we're going to be able to afford to go over the top of the track, so how we'll get the public across however many, there's a bunch of them that kind of go through there. So we've got some challenges down there, and I think it even goes through Amy's parking lot or something like that, which can affect us a little bit. So there's a lot of work to do, but I think in general, the concept of a public access along the water and using Cedar as that next ultimately Maritime Park and the Bruce Beach is all great. You know, had some very preliminary conversations about the Day Dock project, and there was already, I'm told, kind of a design of a bridge that could go over, is it Washerwoman's Creek, that we're not connected to yet. It's an important element of getting everybody that way, and so maybe that's something that we can do. So a lot of moving parts, but generally we're going with what they've given us as ideas. Yes, Valley.
Yes, at the budget meeting, there was discussion about Malcolm Young and an offer of purchase and maybe that being executed and that money going into Councilwoman Meyer's district for rollout. Where would that process be proceeding? Will it start with the parks or will it start with the city council?
Brian went out, the team went out, I guess it was Thursday afternoon or Friday? Thursday afternoon?
Two different. She said Malcolm Young, not Morris Court.
Well,
not McGee Field, I'm sorry.
Well, but the time, because they wanted to take the money from one and put it to the other. So let's start with the need, and that is McGee Field, and the immediate need, I think we'll have the ability to meet. But before you take this and put it here, you kind of got to know what here is.
Well, I thought that the discussion was that would be sold and the money from selling it would go into Councilwoman Meyer's district, was what she had reflected that she and Mr. Cooper had worked out, and a facility in her district would be created. And then the budget money would have been shifted for repairs to
I'm not with you on that. I wasn't part of that one.
It's a public.
What I remember is the 400, whatever it was for a basketball court, I guess, at Malcolm Gym or something. Is that what they were looking at that point?
Well, there's 3 years of LOST resources allocated for repairs at Malcolm Young, and the question has become, does it continue to make sense to invest in that facility at its age and usefulness and the programming demands that are decreasing over the last 10 years? And so that became the question. So the mayor discussed possibly surplusing it at council budget meetings last week.
That's as far as we got that brief conversation last week. But I did want to say that we're going to work on the Eagle and look long range there and look for money for that. But the Malcolm, you know, we'll have to chew on a little bit, I guess. Okay. Nothing else? Or nothing? All right.
I have a question that maybe Derek is the best one to answer. I had somebody ask me, the intersection of Cervantes and 110, you're going east and you're turning left onto the northbound ramp, that there's only space for about 3 cars in the turn lane. And on the west side of the ramp, it's all yellow marked off. And people get stuck there and don't know what to do, and people pass on the left at rush times. Has any thought been given to maybe making that turn lane extend all the way west as far as there's bit in the road surface?
I was actually victimized by that last week myself. We're gonna talk with, district operations in Chipley about maybe extending that back to the west a little bit, take some of that lower area out, because right now, downtowns, we're victims of our own success, if you would, and there's more and more traffic, coming downtown because of jobs and growth, so we're having to adjust and make, adjustments for issues like that, so, and there's some things like that going on in other places too, so, yeah, we are looking at it, DOT.
Because that's just a striping issue, right? I mean, that's all it really is.
Y'all do very kind.